Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this one we are going to be getting our hands dirty, getting started with Recharts, which is a pretty cool charting library for React. And more specifically, we're going to be building this type of stacked bar chart, and we're going to be integrating it into a little trading simulator app I built out. It's a pretty cool app to, well, it generates lots of data that we can play with at least. So yeah, all of this is kind of course, inspired from this conversation we were having in the last video where Tajay mentioned he was in data analytics, and then some other people, Paul specifically, suggested some features that we could use for, the university app. So that's kind of the plan. And I know also that I said I was going to be working on the university app in this tutorial, but what I want to do is first implement that chart here. I'll go ahead and make sure that we install the library properly and set up a simple chart right here just to pretty much build out a proof of concept to say TNBOS can support this chart. And then from there, we can go ahead and probably have, I don't know if we'll use this style, but some more of these charts right here, we'll use it as like a dashboard for the university feature. But for right now, we'll just go ahead and get started with some baby steps. So I already got a new branch. Let me just go ahead and do npm install Recharts, plural, that is. All right, that looks good to go. Now, after this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be working my trade app, and I'm just gonna create a new component for this, and I'll actually just name it stacked bar chart. Might wanna change that a little bit later on, but for now, it'll be good. All right, so this is gonna have a actually, I don't think we're going to need to style anything. So let me just go ahead and create a component. And for the name, I'll just name it that. What is this terminal doing? I am tidy this up a little bit. All right. So right now we just got basically a div that says stacked bar chart in it. And then I'm going to be putting this right above here. We'll say underneath this orders heading. So this is the orders page. So in that case, pages, orders. All right. So let me just import this and render it right now. So it is called stacked bar chart, stacked bar chart. And all right, so I'll stick it right under the page header. All right, let me make sure you don't got no errors, and okay, yada yada, need to restart it probably. All right. And actually this is an error right here. Don't have the styles file. Let me just convert that to a div because we're going to be replacing that in like half a second anyways. And all right, we have this component rendering right here. So we'll go ahead and adjust the positioning and everything. But right now, just want to get the foundation structured. Now for the stacked bar chart, what I'm actually going to do is just pretty much steal this boilerplate code. So for this, what can I do? Let's do this. Start with all this data. Don't need to import those, I don't believe. All right, so this data is gonna have to clean up that later. And now, just copy this responsive container, which is gonna be the parent for everything. And let me just do this. Return it. That. And first of all, I'd like to have my attributes sorted alphabetically. I also want to take this class name, which we need for those styled components, and just pass it through to the parent. Margin, we don't need to set any of this. Let me do some cleanup right here. All right, not gonna set margin there because we wanna do that from CSS. We don't need this anymore. And then our data is, pretty this up. Optimize my imports in. All right, so getting some issues right here, and this is just because the way I have ESLint set up. These keys need to be sorted, so I just have to go and sort each of these. And actually, let me not even do that because I'm going to be replacing all this dummy data. All right, so here, let me make sure nothing's broken so far. All right, so it's no longer displaying, and I think that I know why. And that's because with a responsive container, I only want one of these to be relative. So we'll say height 260, width equals 100%. So yeah, with a responsive container, one of the props should be pretty much a static amount in pixels, and then the other one should be a percentage string. And hopefully, if I'm correct, yep, all right. So now we got it displaying right here. But what I want to do is, right now this is taking up the 100% of the entire width. I only want it to take up, well, maybe 100, but I'm thinking about 80% might be good, and then kind of center aligned here. And also I want to add a bit of spacing between this top order card and then pretty much this chart right here. So in order to accomplish that, what I'm going to do is on my orders where I'm importing the stacked bar chart, I am instead going to import it from the order styles file. And instead of stacked bar chart, I'm going to import it as U, in other words, unstyled stacked bar chart. And then I am just going to say that the stacked bar chart is a styled version of this unstyled stacked bar chart. And for this, what do I want to do to it specifically? Well, actually, the only thing that I'm going to do to this in this div, like the properties I'm going to override directly, even though I want to adjust the position, I'm not going to do that quite yet. What I'm going to do is go and say font size is equal to 12 pixels. And by the way, to actually render this on the screen, instead of rendering it from here, which is the component being imported, we want to render the styled version of that, which comes from our styles files, since we're importing everything is S right here. So anywho, we should now render our custom version, which should have 12 pixels. And yes, the font size, couldn't think of the word there for a second, but the font size did increase to 12 pixels. Looking good. All right. So the reason I said, even though I want to add a little margin bottom to that chart to get some space between this and this card right here, I want to do it inside a container because that's going to give me my flex behavior I want. And let me save this. Stack the bar chart container. And the way I'm going to render this is pretty much like this. Stacked stacked bar chart container. If you can say that tongue twister, then that's what I'm going to be having, treating as the parent of this stacked bar chart. And for this, I of course want to display it as a flex, and I'll just say justify content center. And that's going to center align it horizontally. And then for this is where I'm going to stick the margin bottom of 24 pixels. Let me see how this looks. All right, looking pretty good. See, we got a little bit of space right here. Actually, I wonder, let me think about this. Yeah, I don't even think I need this since it's already responsive and just using the full width anyways. All right, so that should be good. So now let's go ahead and take a closer look at these charting elements right here and figure out what's going on. So responsive container, we already know what that does. It's pretty much the parent container for everything. Give it a static height and then a dynamic width, and then that's going to give you this behavior. Very much that cool responsive behavior. Looking good. And then the bar chart, of course, this is pretty much the component that we want to create. All of the settings, quote unquote, are going to be children components that go right inside there. But for the bar chart, We just need to give it data. And for us, this is going to be a custom array, basically like an array of whatever statistics you want to display. Of course, you know what these are. Actually, we don't even need these. Data height and width. Let me just make sure. Yeah, since we're using a responsive container, we don't need those attributes. And all right, so this Cartesian grid right here, this is that background grid. You see, I'll stop hovering over, but you see that little dotted grid right here. Now, the first number here, you can kind of just think of this, it's how I think of it. The stroke dashed array, this 3, 3 is the length of the lines. And then this other 3 is the length of the gaps. And I'll kind of show you what I mean. So I'm going to increase the first one, which should increase the length of the line. And you see, you have to kind of look, hopefully you can notice on YouTube, but the gray lines got a little bit bigger. And of course, you can probably see what's going to happen, but you know, I got to demonstrate it anyways. My OCD kicking in. And there you go. You see that there is more of a gap now than the line itself. So let me change that back. I actually like how it is by default off the template 3, 3. Now this x-axis right here. Now for the data key, this is of course going to be the key of the data that you want to use on the x-axis. And since we have name, that was the little sample there, you see that the name property is going to be displayed down there. For us, we're actually going to use dates, and then we're going to have like the last 7 days we'll display, and then we'll have a stacked bar chart where we'll have both the number of filled orders and the number of canceled orders. So yeah, that's the story behind that. And now for the y-axis, this is just saying that we want a y-axis. So you see that we didn't specify anything. That's because the values are derived from the actual data, so we don't need to pass in any attributes. However, if we just remove that component completely, then we wouldn't even have these values right here. So to show you what I'm talking about, let me just remove x-axis, or excuse me, y-axis, and you see that those values disappear. But I actually like having those, so I'm going to comment that back in. Now for this tooltip in the legend components right here, that is saying to, for the tooltip, you see that whenever I hover over this, then actually let me add another couple columns real quick. All right, so whenever I hover over this, you see that this little tooltip pops up right here. That's what this is. And that legend component is just saying to display these little, like a guide down here. And then last but not least, we have these bars. And these bars, of course, you know what those are, the actual bars in the chart. The data key is the key for whatever data. I don't know what PV and UV stands for in this example, but what we will have is something like filled and canceled. However, I will type it properly. And then these, or excuse me, the stack ID. So if two bars have the same stack ID, then they're going to appear on top of each other. And I'll show you what this means by this purple and this green. You see how they're just stacked on top of each other? Now, if they have different stack IDs, then they'll just appear side by side. So let me go ahead and change this one to B. You see, just appear side by side. There you go. Now let me go ahead, and now that we kind of understand everything, what do I want to do first? So the first thing I want to do is actually change the color of these, because what I want these to be is, like you see, these filled orders and these canceled orders, and these badges already have a standard color, and I already have it as a cheat sheet on the right hand side of my screen. However, if you can, well, let me actually show you this badge component. So in the component badge under my styles, you see everything is embarrassingly hard coded in, but this is where I'm getting the colors from. I definitely need to pull these out into a more standardized color theme, but yeah, just been lazy, I guess. But anyways, now what we can actually do is start prepping this for the data that we want. So what I like to do is kind of just start here. Like, what's the ideal data that I'm going to be passing in? And again, like I said, each bar is going to be a certain day, and that day is going to have pretty much display the number of filled orders and canceled orders on top of it. So I'll have a count for the canceled orders for that day, and I'm just adding sample data right here. So I'll say 1. And for the created date, so this is, I don't know exactly what format we are going to be using, but I'll say Jan 8, 2023. Actually it's February. I'm only off by like a month. All right, filled 5, and yeah, it's pretty much the format. So now let me just go ahead and get 5 of these. Just to make sure that it looks all right. So first of all, 9, 10, 11, 12, and let me see, 2, 10. I like having realistic data, and I don't know, starting with realistic data instead of like adjusting it later just always saves me time. And I'll do like a 3, 15, a lot of order, or 13, that looks good too, and 2, 14. Okay, so now that we change this, we also need to change a couple keys right here. So the x-axis, pretty much what each of your bars are, it's just going to be its created date. And then for the first bar, I'm just going to say that's going to be the filled one. Again, this should be my green color. And then for the canceled, this is my red. So let's see how that's looking. All right, something like this. So these are my orders each day, and it displays 5 now. I'm just go ahead and add 2 more just to see how 7 looks. Because I think I want to display the last 7 days. All right, I like the way that looks. Get the full dates. Yeah, this looks pretty good. All right, so again, like I said, what I like to do is kind of mock everything out with sample data, and then after that, I'll go ahead and then write a function. We'll probably use memo for this, and it effectively is just going to return this exact shape of data. So on that note, let me actually go ahead and pass the order list into this component. I already calculated what list of orders should be displaying on that page, and since this is a decently heavy operation, iterating through a bunch of orders at least, then I don't want to have to recalculate it. I don't want to stick it in a hook or anything, so I'll just pass it down. And for this, I need to accept it, so I'll make stacked bar chart props. This is gonna take an order list, just keep it named the same thing. And then for this, type it out. Let me just import some things that I need. Let's see, resolutions. Gonna need those. And let's see what else. All right, that should be good. Now this order list. This is just a list of orders. And need to accept it here. And then pass that bad boy down so it can be used. All right, so now that it accepts that order list, grab it here, and where are you at? All right, so now the order component, the orders page, is passing in the orders list to that stacked bar component. So what we can do on that orders list, and by the way, the orders list is just a list of all of these orders that are pretty much in this section right here. Now, before we hop into any more code, let me actually go ahead and show you something. So you aren't going to see this, but I'm on my MacBook right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and first make a simple order, and it'll just be a sample one. I'm going to hit place order now and check out what happens. So what the system does is it goes ahead and a bunch of stuff's automated. It goes ahead and fills the order and everything is smooth sailing. Now, the reason I want to show you that is because next up, I want to show you some edge cases where if something goes wrong in that process. So anyways, what happens in this process is that these two devices are working together kind of to say like, your turn. Okay, I'm done now, your turn. And throughout this process, it creates this completed order object. Now, there's also some situations where say one device shuts off in the middle of that process. Then in that case, I just kind of like deferred it to require human intervention. And in the code, I call this a resolution. So now, with that being said, on my MacBook, all right, I probably should have had this page up already. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually comment out one of the lines to that's in the middle of the order process. I basically just want to jam up this pipeline. And now I'm going to place another order. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay. Now check it out. So this is the order I just placed right here. And it says awaiting payment because this is the line that I canceled out. So the payment for my MacBook, which is the other device, not the one you're seeing the screen recording of, but that payment is never going to get sent. So what's going to happen in this case is that once this payment time, and I definitely should have reduced it. I'm probably going to have to pause the video so we don't have to stare at this for 10 minutes. But either way, once this expires, then it's going to say, hey, there wasn't any payment received. And then it's going to require a resolution. And that's the state I want to show you. And this is probably going to make sense like in 1 minute when you see what this is actually doing. But for now, I also want to just make one more order that's going to need to be resolved. And the reason is once you have this resolution object, you're going to have a choice of do you want to fill the order still or do you want to cancel it? And I want to have two of these orders because I want to just test filling one and canceling one. But anyways, I'm going to wait until these expire and then I'll start the video again. You know what? I can probably just write this function while we're waiting. All right. So yeah, this data object right here, this was all that demo data. We essentially want to use memo to replace all this, but I'll keep it commented out since we already know what the keys are going to be named. So I'll say, well, first of all, say the const. All right, so we're going to be getting the resolution objects, which, well, you all don't know what they look like yet, but you will whenever that timer expires. And then for that data, I'm just going to say const data equals use memo. And what this is going to do is it's going to use a reduce function. And all right, so let me think how I want to do this. So I don't want to have to iterate through it any more than one time. So let me go ahead, iterate through each of these orders, and then I'm going to stick each order in basically their day bucket. So like if I had 5 orders today, then those 5 orders are going under their own bucket. And by bucket, I just mean an object or an array. But that's how I'll separate them. And actually, you know what? I can build this thing even easier. Because all I have to do is for each day, as I iterate over that order, I can either move it in filled or canceled or just ignore it if it is neither of those statuses. And by the way, I know a lot of new information being thrown at you, but 99% of the orders, the way I wrote this app, are going to be either filled or canceled. It's just that while the order process is going on, the order status may be in like this weird like pending phrase or waiting for something. But yeah, as long as you don't have it, we're pretty much just finding all the orders that are not currently in progress. I guess that's all I'm trying to say. So what I'm going to do is just build this dynamically, and I'll show you how I do this. So all right, so this is going to be orderless, and then I'm just going to reduce, And when I reduce, I'll say previous value. I need to type this out. So the type of this, I'll just put any, although this is going to be this shape, an array of these type of objects. And the current value, so since we're iterating over orders, this is going to be order. And all right, this is reduce. And then we're going to be building an array. And let me just go ahead and return. Just because my IDE is kind of annoying if I don't have a return statement in there. All right, so anyways, when iterating over this order list, what do I want to do first? Well, I'm gonna create this key first because, all right, so create this key and then I'm gonna create an object key by it as like a mini lookup mechanism. And then that way I don't have to find that item in the array each time. And then when I return the results, I'll just get the values of this, since it's going to be keyed by a string and the values are really all I care about. So anyways, const created date. This is going to be equal to a new date. And the reason that I need this is because on the order object, the dates are the string, but I actually want to convert it to a date object because I need to format this date in a specific way. So anyways, the order.createDate, just convert that to a date. And you're just gonna call to local date string, and I'm gonna do undefined, and actually let me copy this from dates to local date string, short, long. All right, here we go. And this is just going to give me a standardized date that I can use as the key. However, right now, this created date is indeed a date. And since I want to use it as a, convert it back to a date string, I'll just say const date string equals created date to string. And then I can use it as a key later on. But first, what I want to check for, okay. So we're eventually going to be building this where we determine for the orders of that day, look at each one and say if it was canceled, add one to this. If it was filled, add one to that. And for that, there isn't actually one order status. The canceled is in a specific, or excuse me, a separate type of object called a resolution. I'll show you what these are. So tray types resolution. So the resolution status could be canceled, filled, or unresolved. Unresolved means, hey, the person didn't decide what they want to do yet. Filled means that the order was completed. Of course, canceled means that it was canceled. But if there is a resolution, then that status, it basically overrides the default order status, since like manual human intervention always overrides like the automated process. That's how I thought of it in my head, at least. So const resolution, this is going to be equal to resolutions, and it would be keyed by the order ID. So order ID. So this resolution object, it may exist, but it may not. So we don't know. So just want to mention that because later, like right here, we need to check if the order is canceled. And for that, I first want to say if there is a resolution, and the reason that I like to have these double ampersands, even though, well, let me go ahead and type out the entire logic, then I'll tell you. So if there is a resolution, then the resolution's resolution status, if this is equal to resolution status canceled, then that means the order is canceled. So yeah, this double ampersand basically just converts this object to a Boolean value. We can write it like this, but well, sometimes actually TypeScript will complain if you're using it in certain situations. But I like that just, I don't know, just feels cleaner in my head, I guess. But yeah, that's why I did that, just converting it to a Boolean, and then const is filled. What we want to do here is we want to say order dot fill status. If if this is equal to fill status complete, then the order is filled. So like I said, 99% of the orders are going to be either canceled or filled. However, if they aren't, we'll say if not is canceled and not is filled, then that would just mean that that order is currently in progress. It's a rare situation, but it can happen. And in that case, we're just going to return the previous value. So make no change to this array that we're building. And actually, this is object. Now, after this, what we can do is this. So we'll say that if, and I'll say the previous value, and the key of this is the date string. So basically, if we have a bucket for these dates already, then what do we want to do? Well, for this bucket, and remember, by the bucket, I just mean this object right here. Well, what we want to do is we either want to add one to the canceled or filled, depending on what this order is. So if we have buckets, then take this, which is the bucket, and actually, did I even, let's do this. All right, so add one to cancel. We'll say plus equal is canceled. Then we're gonna add one to canceled. Otherwise, we don't add any. And it's the same logic for filled, where we want to add a one to filled if it's filled. Otherwise, don't do anything. And else, all right. So this is saying if you already have the bucket or you already have pretty much orders for that date, then go ahead and make these changes. If not, then what we need to do is actually create that bucket. And this is equal to this object. All right, it's probably easier just to type this out. How lazy am I? Come on. Let's see, canceled. Let me just frame this out real quick. So canceled, created date, and filled. And now I can actually get rid of this. All right, so for the canceled value, in the very first time, we'll say if it's canceled, then it's equal to 1. Same thing for is filled logic. And the created date, we're actually going to use this date string, what is keyed by. All right, so right now, this results is a dictionary whose keys are dates and whose values are these objects right here. And we just structured it that way because it was, we only have to iterate over everything once. However, whenever we return this, we actually only want the values of that since the keys were just for easy lookups. So object.values of the results, that's going to give us a list. And actually, this is going to work right here. I believe so. Yeah, this should work, but I want to make some changes as well. And since I updated too much, let me just go ahead and restart. All right, so I was getting an error and now I see what it is. It was because I didn't return the previous value right here. All right. Alrighty. So yeah, now the dates are appearing. However, what I want to do here is actually switch the ordering of these because you see the way that this order list is coming in, I have the most recent orders at the top and then the oldest ones at the bottom. However, for the list, I don't want the oldest ones, or excuse me, the most recent ones at the beginning and the oldest ones at the end. I want the most recent ones on the right-hand side. So to do that, I just need to reverse my array. It's being returned, and I'll just say reverse. And another thing that I want to do is even though I only have orders for 4 days, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, you can see that the reverse worked properly. I now have the most recent ones appearing on the right hand side. But anyways, what I was saying is, even though I have them for 4 days right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, what I want to do is I actually want to limit this to 7. Right now, if you had more days, it would just display all the days. But to kind of limit that, what I want to do is just slice this, and I'll say 0 to 7. And just to show you that this works, let me just slice it for 2. And you see it's going to only display the last 2 items. So by slicing it and giving it a size of 7, this is going to max it out at no more than 7 items, because I don't want to display any more than 7 days. But wait a minute, is that the entire thing? Is this all we had to do? Huh. All right. Well, for some reason, I thought it would take longer than that. Oh, yeah. The other thing I want to show you is this resolution right here. So right now, it is 2-2, and I have 5 filled orders and 1 canceled one. And let me just go ahead, and for this resolution, I'm just going to go ahead and fill it. And I want to do this in real time, because whenever I click this, you should see this change right here. So fill this. Oh, wait a minute. Unable to determine. Oh, you know what? I think I got disconnected. Yep. So during my debugging and React hot reload, got disconnected. So I just need to reconnect. Yeah, sometimes if there's an error, then hot reload will disconnect me from my WebSocket. So then I have to restart it to just reconnect. So that's what's going on here. But now, hopefully, all right, yep, I'm connected with my MacBook now. Now let me go ahead and resolve this to fill the order. So again, 5 filled orders, 1 canceled. Hit fill, and you see, well, hopefully you saw it, that this bar increased right here. Now I have 6 filled orders, 1 canceled. And now for this resolution, instead of filling the order, I'm going to cancel it. And again, keep an eye on this right here. It should update in real time. Right now it's 6 filled to 1 canceled. Cancel order canceled successfully. And 6 filled, 2 canceled. All right, looking good. So we now have our beautiful bar chart. Don't even have 7 days yet, but once we do, they'll all appear here. And it looks like the fill status and cancellation status updating logic is still working. And yeah, another feature for our OS, quote unquote. So yeah, thanks for watching. And in the next video, I actually don't know. I'm gonna kind of go free solo here and maybe start working on the university app. By the way, another thing I might as well show you while I'm here is I built in a notification system. So let me send it, because I'll show you what the problem was before. So before, I actually added Seed, one of my friends from Ethiopia, and he was chatting with me, and he would send me a chat message, and I didn't even know that he sent it to me since we didn't have any notifications. But now check this out. So now when someone sends a chat message, you see this little notification right here. Gonna click this, and then I built these little red blurbs right here. So click it, and then this little red line, it shows you where your new messages are. So pretty cool. At least I thought it was cool. I was happy to have a notification system. It makes chatting a whole lot easier. But anyways, in the next video, we're either going to be building a notification system into this university, maybe building one into our our trade simulator. I kind of want to get back to working on this university though. It seems like it's going to be a little bit more interesting. And we can also build out that dashboard feature to see, you know, maybe the total number of courses you created, how many students are viewing, so on and so forth. So that should be pretty interesting too. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.